and not just services to older adults. So the business community, the corporate community are very important players. The folks you know as the influencers in this community need to be engaged in some fashion or other. Doesn't mean they have to attend every committee meeting by any means, but they have to know what's going on and be engaged and committed. Okay. So when it comes down to it, improving a community is all about people work. Money is really secondary. Now, money is important, but it is secondary. However, I think that if you do a good job with the people work, I didn't say paperwork, I said people work, the money will follow. And I had an opportunity Wednesday night to speak to a couple of foundation folks down in Denver and let them know what was happening in Larimer County, and they were quite pleased, and they're excited to know that various areas around Colorado or citizens are getting around these issues and putting together planning initiatives. And so the funding is out there. When you get to the point where you've got the right proposal, if you will, and it may take a while to get there, the work that you're doing now, as effective as it will be over the next few months, will position you for that, but I think eventually it will come. And Larimer County is well positioned for this kind of initiative. Basically, what does it involve? What's involved with a community planning initiative? And again, this could be homelessness. It could be any issue that you can think of. If you're going to approach it from the standpoint of a community-wide collaborative planning process, these are the kinds of steps that you could anticipate going through over the next year or longer. And you've started that today by working on number one, identifying the stakeholders. And a lot of careful work went into thinking about who to invite today. And I know for a fact that the group is very diverse, involves a number of different sectors of the community, and that you've done a good job of identifying stakeholders around this issue who can continue to be involved, whether as cheerleaders or whether as committed funders or whether as active partners in the process itself. So identifying the stakeholders is important. And I think that when the meeting is over today and the board reconvenes to look at this, they're going to ask the question, who's missing? Because you're going to be identifying important issues this afternoon to address in the community. And though the folks who are going to be working on those issues are going to sit down and say, well, who was at that table and who was missing? From this conversation. And then we got to go out and hook them in some fashion. So that's a very important process that happens throughout the year as you expand the circle. Understanding the issues is pretty critical, and framing the problem becomes really important before you take action. Because when you think about it, it's really commonsensical that how you define a problem depends on what you're going to do about it, right? How you define a problem depends on what you do about it. Defines what you're going to do about it. Now, it seems simple-minded, but often people don't spend a whole lot of time really trying to frame a problem before they attack it. We love to leap to solutions. Somebody goes to a meeting in another city and they've got this great project and we need to do this project here in Larimer County. And so people get involved and they want to do the project and it doesn't work for some reason. And there are a lot of projects and services that have been created over the years for seniors that have failed because not an inadequate amount of effort really went into framing the problem in human terms. So that's pretty important. If you look at depression and social isolation, for example, when I check my time here for a sec. 9:44. I go to 9:50, right? Is that right? 5 more minutes. My first job was at a mental health center, and I was supposed to develop an older adults program a mental health program for older adults. So I thought, well, I need to get out and meet some older adults, and so I went to a planning group, a bunch of radical old ladies called Senior Citizens Action Congress, a really, really wonderful kind of version of Gray Panthers locally, and they were putting together a senior expo, and so this was the first meeting, and we were going to do it at the mall, and we went around introducing ourselves, and I said, I'm Phil Stafford, and I'm starting a mental health program for older adults at the mental health center, and it was like, what's that? And I said, and I have a pickup truck, and I could help haul tables and chairs for the expo. It was like, whoa, yeah, this is great. So I realized very quickly that putting a shingle up, at the mental health center saying psychologists will now see older adults was not going to be the way to really connect around that issue. That's an issue in particular where you might have a totally different, improving access to mental health services is really critically important. I don't want to discount that. And very valuable and very effective. But there are other issues, constellation of issues around social isolation in neighborhoods and so forth that can be addressed in other ways as well. Transportation to the mental health center, if notwithstanding. So framing the problems, identifying action steps, prioritizing the actions, supporting and monitoring the responsible parties, and benchmarking and evaluating. Kinds of steps that you'd be going through with a community-wide planning initiative, okay? Now, a lot of the work might involve attention to the physical environment, and both AARP and the American Institute of Architects have been paying a lot of attention to this issue, and that's important. Complete streets, good sidewalks, retail close to housing, all those kinds of things become very important issues that you'll be thinking about, I'm sure. And the next slide. And if you do it right, I think you will achieve what Christopher Alexander promotes as an essential design principle for a community that's thinking about aging, is that old people everywhere. What a nice, simple way of thinking about a wonderful outcome for your efforts, that no matter where you go, you're liable to see an old person in this community. And that itself could provide a lot of conversation, I think, as you assess your environment, as you sort of scan Larimer County and see whether how close you are to that particular design goal, okay? I think you'll find that, in a sense, older people will be able to move out of the shadows and become more active, visible contributors to this community. It's not just about the needs of older adults, but it's about their contributions and moving them into the mainstream of the community in a way that probably will improve everybody's life. And also addressing, the next slide, addressing those intangibles that are also important reason for your work. Intangibles like beauty, and movement and memory, which I think is a critical element of a good community, that a good community remembers itself to itself, and that older people in a community play a very vital role in helping achieve that goal. And as Wendell Berry would say in another of my favorite quotes on the next slide, every human community, if it is to last, must exert a kind of centripetal force, holding local soil and local memory in place. And I think that's a wonderful definition of a sustainable community, and one that can help inspire the work that you're doing as well. I think that's my last slide, except for a plug for a blog and a website. If you're interested in the work in Indiana, you can go to www.agingindiana.org. And all our survey data is there, and we're developing some other community planning tools to put on the website, and then I've got a blog there. I'll write about Fort Larimer, or Larimer County, when I get back home, and I'll put the slides up on the website as well, so that you can retrieve them, although I think Jean is making arrangements to get those to people that want them as well. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a set of bibliographic references on the last slide, in case you need those as well. So thank you very much.